piece of championship social media is measurement. So I want to talk to you about measurement. Now, I wish I could tell you that there is a secret metric that no one knows about, and your competitors don't know about, and I'm going to tell you it, and it's going to make your measurement easy, and it's going to give you everything you need. And unfortunately, that is just not the case. I can't tell you what you should be measuring. I can't tell you that because I don't know who you are. I don't know what your business is. I don't know what your business goals are, and I don't know what your conversions are. And even if I knew it for one of you, I wouldn't know it for all hundreds of people who are on the webinar. So it's not really, it's not going to be that easy. But one thing I can tell you about measurement is that it begins at the planning stage. So if you don't have any social campaigns even existing right now, or you have social campaigns that are coming up, the thing you got to ask yourself is, what would a successful report with real numbers from my social media even look like? So, so could you create a fictional report of a successful social marketing campaign? If you're brand new to social media, maybe you actually do create a fictional report. You know, here I got 137,000 views or whatever it is, and you actually plug in those fictional numbers. If you're a little bit more mature and you don't want to do that, you know, physically, could you at least conceptualize it? But before you even do that, what can you measure? You have to understand what you can actually measure. A lot of people talk about social measurement, but let's take a look at what you can actually look at. So there's a certain methodology on how to measure. This is our methodology. Here at Awareness, the way that we measure things, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about some of the metrics that the Social Media Command Center looked at. But you know, yours can vary from this. But let's just talk about the main nuts and bolts, because really with measurement, you're making soup and you need to know the ingredients. So with this methodology, we are taking social statistics. The social networks have statistics. Many of you go into Facebook Insights and you get your statistics from there. It's actually more efficient if those statistics are being fed into another system via an API. Almost all the social networks feed their information into another system via an API. And the reason for that is because you can get all your statistics in one place. If I have multiple Facebook accounts, rather than looking at different Insights pages, I have them all fed into one place. And then I also have my Twitter fed in. I also have my YouTube fed in. Now I can look at all those at once and make comparisons. The other thing I'm going to need is some sort of click tracking software. Bitly is the most common one. Something that actually tracks the clicks, because you want to know when you get clicks, and you want to know if you do have some sort of conversion tracking, you want to be able to take advantage of that as well. But then what you're seeing here, this graph, is really a matrix of what can be measured, trying to figure out what equals what across the social network. Some of these are easy, such as reach. So a Facebook fan is essentially the same thing as a Twitter follower, is essentially the same thing as a YouTube subscriber. So those are easy. Those are probably obvious. Other ones require some degree of interpretation, and again, this is our interpretation, that a share and a retweet are essentially the same thing. So if someone goes to a Facebook post and hits share, uses the actual share button, to us that's the same thing as a retweet. If someone likes one of your posts, that's the same thing to us as a favorite of your tweets. Some of them actually seem simple, but are not. Click-throughs is a good example. So a click-through is really defined as anybody who clicks on a URL in your social marketing that leads them someplace else. I'll give you an example. If I tweet out there and I have a link in there and they click on it, that's a click. If I post a picture on Facebook and someone clicks on the picture and they go to my photo album, that's not a click. Clicks only take you from one area of the social networks off of that social network to a completely different destination. That's what's going to be tracked. Now, if I have a comment on that picture that contains a URL that I've used with my click tracking software, and they click on that, now that's a click. And that's a really important distinction. So a click isn't just any time someone hits the left clicks on a mouse, or right clicks, depending on what you're using, but it's when they actually go from one place to another. And that's important to measure, and you need to be aware of that. Another aspect of measurement that I'll mention as far as methodology is audit trails for service. If you're using social media specifically for customer service, audit trails are very helpful, because sometimes volume in and of itself is a measurement. So you can say, I posted 1,000 times last month. I helped with 500 customer service inquiries, and I know that every customer inquiry that I service is about $2. So my total number of inquiries times $2 is the amount of money that I saved, or whatever it is. But it's not that easy to do that just in the social networks. Like, I can't go to, Facebook and say, how many times did I post last month? It doesn't really, isn't necessarily that easy to get that. But if I have a system that is collecting those and I can create audit trails for service, then I'm able to sort of take a deeper dive into measurement. So I want to talk about the Social Media Command Center. So there's an infographic out there. If you look up Social Media Command Center, Super Bowl 46 Social Media Command Center infographic, you'll find it. We'll also send it out to you guys after the webinar. But we can take a look at some of their metrics. So they had an audience goal. That's a reach goal. Again, they're combining numbers. They had a reach goal of 5,000. Their final reach was 49,000. They had a sentiment goal, so they can monitor sentiment. And again, monitoring was a big portion of what they're doing, so they had those audit trails. Those audit trails are also determining if comments were positive or negative, and they had a 3.6 to 1 positive to negative ratio. Amplification. So again, remember, we're making soup. So they had those ingredients. They combined the shares and retweets and favorites and likes to 64 million impressions. So that's the other thing you can do with your soup, is you can start to combine these numbers, or you can make ratios with them, or you can make comparisons. You can make comparisons of Facebook to Twitter, Facebook to another Facebook page. When you start to combine the ingredients of the soup, it lets you do some interesting things. They exceeded the official NFL's handle influence on clout. So they knew that clout was like a benchmark. They wanted, again, they're a fictitious report in their head. They knew that they wanted to exceed that. They didn't necessarily say they wanted to exceed it by 20% or 100% or whatever it is, but they knew what it was, and they knew it as a benchmark before they started. So the estimated total value, $3.2 million, and we have Talby on the line. So Talby, do you want to talk a little bit about how you determined that number?
Sure. We determined, and this value of $3.2 million is based on January 1st at midnight all the way up through kickoff, which was at about 6:30 on game day. It's important to note that we were involved with the campaign actually since 2010, so this value is really only in the weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, the 4 or 5 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. What we based this on was we wanted to find an apples-to-apples comparison for valuing social media versus traditional offline media. And when marketers place a media buy on radio or TV or print or even online in a lot of cases, they do it based on cost per thousand. So they're buying X number of impressions at Y cost per point or cost per thousand. The average market rate for adults 25-54 in Indianapolis is about $50 cost per thousand. So that's the number that we used. Times the 64 million impressions that we got led to this 3.2 million number, which is in the neighborhood of what it costs to buy a Super Bowl spot. So we thought that was a pretty interesting metric and allowed marketers who maybe hadn't engaged in social media to start to understand the kinds of value it can deliver.
And just, I've seen the infographic, but so how much is a 30-second radio spot for the Super Bowl?
A 30-second TV spot for the Super Bowl.
Sorry, TV spot. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. The average cost that I saw in the press was somewhere between 3.2 and 3.5 million. We used 3.5 in the infographic. So again, we're in the neighborhood of delivering what most people paid to rent eyeballs for 30 seconds. And the great thing about that 64 million impressions is we've got an audience of 49,000 people who the following month, if we were in a continuous campaign, are going to deliver another 60 million impressions. And the month after that, guess what they're going to do? They're going to deliver even more impressions. So it's comparing the concept of paid media versus what we call owned media. You now have an audience in these social channels that you don't have to rent their eyeballs anymore.